Well, hello everybody and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 431 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. And tonight we are doing our deep dive episode. This is our long topic. It'll be a single topic, and tonight it's a topic that is a single application. Bill is going to tell you a lot more about that application, but before he does, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
So while I had to pretty much plow through the last deep dive, Bill is going to be the one plowing through this deep dive. So if you don't like the sound of Bill's voice, you might as well just turn us off now and come back for the next one. But
that's horrible.
I know it's horrible, but you know, I get to poke fun at you because it's my show. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. This is I have a couple of choice things to say about the application a little bit later on in the show, but we're going to get to the good stuff first, and Bill's going to tell you all about it.
Yes, I'm sure you'll interject appropriately when you say
or inappropriately.
No, absolutely not. So we're talking about tonight is SDR plus the quote, the bloat-free SDR software. And we had mentioned this a few episodes ago as something to try out. And so we got a chance to kind of dig into the software a little bit. And we kind of wanted to share that with you all if you want to stay here with my voice, instead of fast forwarding to the end to the credits. But what SDR++ is, it is a cross-platform and open source SDR software with the aim of being bloat-free and simple to use. Features include wide hardware support, both through SOAPy SDR and dedicated modules, including like Blade RF, AirSpy, SDR Play, HackRF, and a bunch of other ones that you can use. SIMD accelerated DSP, cross-platform for Windows, Linux, OS X, and I guess that'd be Mac OS nowadays, and BSD, which is basically Mac OS with something on top of it, and a full waterfall update when possible. Makes browsing signals easier and more pleasant. Well, don't we all like the waterfalls because they look so pretty? Basically,
eye candy. We love the eye candy, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, it is pretty sexy. I mean, if we were going to put a sexy scale on it, it definitely looks really good in a dark mode. But let's talk a little bit about getting it. So in order to find this software, it's not in your repo, unless you're a special user. But we'll get to that as well. It is something that you actually have to go to their GitHub site and download. They do have tagged releases, and inside the tagged releases, they have builds for Bullseye for Debian, Buster for Debian, SID for Debian, an AMD 64 package for Mac OS. So I'm assuming that means there's no ARM package for M1. It probably runs fine through Rosetta, probably, right? Ubuntu, they have Focal build, a Groovy build, a Hirsute build, and for Windows, they have an x64 build. So if you have any of those systems, in theory, you should be able to load the package and run with it. So that's where you'll find your download. The latest release is 1.0.3. I know based on being part of the Discord channel over there that they're definitely trying to get 1.04 out the door, but they're having some build issues. And I'm sure we can share with you some build issues that we had. Let me go back up here to the notes before I get totally off board here. So if you have one of the installables, it may or may not work for you. Windows, it works. I did test that out. Ubuntu LTS build, which is Focal FASA, right? That worked fine when I was running Elementary OS. I believe you tried Hirsute, the deb package, and you had no success.
Well, it installed. I mean, I had success as far as that goes. But when I tried to fire it up, it would not load. It locks up with an error that says hash collision, fatal error. And then it just sits there and doesn't do anything.
And you S-traced it and couldn't figure out what was causing it.
I
where it
have
was
not
stopping.
S-traced it yet. I was working on building it on another machine first to see if the problem was replicatable, which apparently it is. So,
So you jump right on me with S-trace, but when I do you, you're like, oh, I didn't even try it yet.
hey, back off.
I see how it is. As you heard, there is no Fedora build. I did give this a go on my Fedora 34 installation that I'm using for our YouTube little videos. And I have some bad news to report to you. I kind of fumbled my way through getting it to build. I had problems building even librtl SDR, which was really weird because I had it built in the libraries and it wouldn't detect it on compile. And I did eventually get it to compile with enough option flags that turned everything off except for file source and SOAPy SDR source. And that finally did build, and that did run for a little while. Somehow, between closing it down, opening it back up, and closing it down and messing around with settings and stuff like that, apparently I put a setting in there that it didn't like, and then it would bomb out on Pipewire. So it was quite unhappy on Fedora. And since I couldn't do librtl SDR directly, I couldn't actually engage the direct sampling mode, which would enable me to actually hear HF on it. But the good news is I've totally borked my install now, messing around with this. So, yeah, we might not see the Fedora 34 machine on the videos, but I do have some really great news about Arch. I quickly and rapidly installed Arch on my other machine. I have my Dell Precision that was going to get redone anyway. So I took a quick stab at it earlier today while we were having a cigar on Discord, and burned up the KDE Dragonized version of Garuda Linux. And after building the bazillion packages for the update, the first thing I installed was SDR++ from the Arch package repository, or the AUR, the Arch, what do they call it? AUR, Application User Repository or something. I can't remember what the heck it stands for. Anyway, so they have a package called SDR-pp-git. I know we always tell you on Arch systems to avoid the gits, but this is a good one because it installed with everything. So, when you go in there and install it, it'll ask you if you wanted the optional packages. And I said, yes, I want to install everything because I want to see this thing break. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon which side of the fence you are on for Arch, it worked perfectly and beautifully. So definitely works well for there, and they recommend that Arch repository on their GitHub site. As I'm just looking at it, I believe they even give you a link right to it. Arch based. Use the SDR-pp-git package. So that's how you'll get it if you're running Arch Windows again. Download the zip file. It's an exe inside of a folder. So you'll need to navigate that folder wherever you want to install it. And then inside there, you'll see that SDR-pp.exe file. Create a shortcut to that, or however you wish to execute that in the future. And for Mac OS, I don't really care about you people. No, I'm just kidding. I'm assuming it has some kind of whatever the Mac app image type format thingy, and you just drag it into your programs and you're off to the races. But I don't have a Mac, so at least not one that runs Mac, so I can't tell you that experience. Maybe Russ eventually will test that out, or in theory.
Maybe someday, yeah.
Maybe someday, not this time. He didn't have time to build it on his. Didn't want to destroy his M1 with the software here. So we covered the release builds 1.0.3. There we go. All right. So if you're lucky enough, when you double click the icon or go in your console and type SDR-pp and press enter, if you're lucky enough that the GUI pops up, you're greeted with. My screen, it's dark. It does have two modes, I believe. You can see it in light mode as well. I choose not to use light mode. so it's in dark mode for me, but basically it comes up just like most of the other SDR apps. It doesn't start anything because it assumes that you need to do some configuring, but basically it starts up as a top bar, left-hand control panel that basically has all your controls for setting up your SDR application. And on the right side, you have waterfall controls. So I'll just go quickly across the top just to describe what we have here. So across the top, you have a little hamburger menu, or whatever you like calling the 3 dashes, that will basically shrink and hide your control panel on your left-hand side of the screen. You have a play button for actually starting your SDR. That's very common to see the play button be used to engage the SDR to start doing its stuff. Volume control, frequency readout and control there, where you can use your mouse or number pad or whatever you want to do to actuate the frequency directly, and a signal meter. And then for your waterfall controls, which of course at the top you have a box that is the signal, what do they call that? The signal.
I'm sorry, I tuned out 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, what do you call the top? What do you call the top part? It's not the bottom part's the waterfall. The top part is like the signal to noise graph representation thing. I can never remember.
Like the scope or whatever. Or...
Yeah, like your band scope. That's what I'm thinking of. It looks like your band scope. So you can kind of see your noise floor and all the signals across your noise floor and everything else like that. And you can control like where the noise floor looks in the display, which also impacts how dense your waterfall looks. Like if you have a lot of noise, you can reduce it down, kind of take the waterfall and just control the level of signal you have hitting the waterfall, so you can discern signals better out of the noise instead of just seeing a big white screen or something like that that looks like it's all noise with a few speckles of signal in there. But anyway, that's kind of like the layout that you get. It's all waterfall, signal scope, or band scope, and then the controls are on the side. So if you've got it installed and you installed all the right modules, I'm going to hit stop on mine so I can see all the buttons. You have several widgets or control boxes in your controls. The very top one is called source. And inside the source is actually where you establish what device you're actually going to be controlling with your software here. And like I said, I installed everything with mine, so I don't get the SDR with it, so they won't work. But installed AirSpy HF Plus, HackRF, Pluto SDR, RTL SDR, RTL TCP, if you're going to use your RTL on a network device, SOAPy SDR, and Spy Server. And then once you engage your source, so like I'm going to select RTL SDR because that's what I have. Your device should appear in the next box down, which actually is your device selection box. If your device does not show up, you either don't have it plugged in or you don't really have support for it on your system. Hopefully you do. So you can go to the next step. So the next step is selecting how much signal you're going to bring in. I just have mine set at 1 megahertz just because that's enough. It makes it fast enough so it can process all. Okay, there's my notification that the podcast is starting. Let me turn off the sound. Told you, always an hour in, right? So you have your sampling, and then on mine, because I have a direct sampling feature on the device itself, I actually has a drop down here to flip it between direct sampling and regular or disabled. For the RTL SDR, if you disable it, you get basically from 6 megahertz up. And then if you want HF, you enable direct sampling. And on this option, you actually select the Q branch as your direct sampling method. And then you can get down and hear HF signals. And this is all on that little $30 dongle from rtlsdr.com that you can get off of Amazon for $30. Pretty cool device just to play with if you want to play with all the software and stuff like that. They also have PPM correction. I don't use any of that. You have a gain button or a gain slider. Then the next options are going to be all different based upon your device. Mine shows a bias T, offset tuning, RTL, AGC for auto gain control, tuner auto gain control, IQ correction, all this other stuff. In general, I just basically click the RTL auto gain control, and that's it. So your mileage may vary based upon your device. As well, if you have to set an offset or something like that for your device, it'll be different. But there's some other options there to tweak. Once you've got your device set up, literally at that point, you can actually just hit the play button, which I'm just going to do now because it's fun to hit play and watch the stuff move around on the screen. And at this point, you should see stuff hopefully moving around. You might have to move into a band that actually has some signal and stuff like that. Like I'm sitting right in the FM portion of the band, and I can see that, it has, I have a signal coming in there. So that's working fine. Let's see here. The next tab is the radio tab. So this is kind of like your control of the radio inside of that. And that basically allows you to select your mode, whether you use narrow FM, wide FM, AM, dual sideband, CW, upper sideband, lower sideband, or raw, whatever raw may be. Maybe you're pulling some signal off there or something like that and inspecting it with some other program. Once you select a mode, it does default some settings for you, like it has a filter width that it assumes that it starts with. Like for CW, it uses a 200 hertz filter. For USB, 3000. Pretty standard stuff. And then you can adjust all that as well. And as well, it also provides a squelch control in there. So that's the radio control. The next control is the recorder control. And this is basically allows you to record what you hear. So, yeah, we can hear some static. There's some static. Just want to make sure that was working. You can record some static, or you can record whatever you want, basically off of that. And the nice part is there's also a level setting for that. So if you want that to be recorded at a lower volume or whatever, you can do that. You record the audio, or you can actually record the bass band. So you can actually record the raw signals across your signal sample for the duration of the time that you have the record going. So you can play that file back inside your SDR player, which is kind of cool because you can listen to a different part of the same segment of band that you were sucking in to your window, which is kind of neat. So that's the recorder. The next one is the frequency manager, which is really, really cool. A lot of SDR software has a feature called, bookmarking or something like that, where you can bookmark a frequency or a mode or something like that. This one has the ability to also group them up into groups. So you can set 2-meter frequencies, or maybe just ham radio frequencies, and then broadcast. So you can create a group, and then you can add frequencies under that. Nice part about the saving of those frequencies inside the frequency manager, it saves your mode and everything else, your filter bandwidths. So everything is saved. So you just basically can click on it the next time, and it'll just go right back to that mode and everything else, which is pretty slick. And you can export or import that list. Haven't tried that feature, but it's definitely there. Vfo Color, I didn't mess with this. Basically has auto color, clear all. I'm assuming you can just color stuff with that for your VFO. Oh, it's for the frequency dial, the VFO dial, which mine is white right now, which makes sense because it's sitting on top of a black background. The next one is the band plan, which shows what you want to see if you want a band plan to show up at all on your screen. And this will be up in that band scope in the top. Like right now, mine shows that I'm inside the FM broadcast band. And So, and if you're like in a ham band, it'll show amateur radio band or 20-meter amateur radio band, 2-meter. Let's see, I'll go up to 140. There you go. So, in the 130s, it shows air band voice. Let's go to 144. 2-meter ham band is what it says. Go up to 430. Let's see, 440, 70 centimeter ham band. So, it gives you all the all the band descriptions and stuff like that in there. You can set it up for your area. The band plans show for like Canada, China, France, general LTE, German mobile networks, Germany, Russia, and USA. So you can sort of set it up for your area. I figure that covers most band plans. The next thing is the display, whether or not you want to show the waterfall, which is enabled obviously by default. You can just have the band scope up, I guess, if you just want to look at that band scope. It's not terribly exciting to look at all by itself. You can go fast FFT. I'm not sure what that does. Oh, well, I don't know. Doesn't really change much on my screen. If you're familiar with SDRs and how they work internally and stuff like that, and how Fourier transforms work, you probably understand this way more than I do. I'm just a software user when it comes to this. So I have a clicky button there that says fast FFT, and I don't know, maybe it makes it faster or something. I don't know. Check your documentation so you understand that. Full waterfall update, and then of course it has for your frame rate for your FFT, the size and window filter. Blackman is what it's set up for here, but has an option of rectangular. Color map is kind of cool because you can change obviously what your waterfall looks like. I just have mine set up to the classic, and it looks classic. So hey, how about that? Let's see here. The next one is syncs. Okay, so this is where the rubber hits the road on some systems. This is your audio devices. So sometimes you may want to send your audio elsewhere. Let's say if you're using Windows, you want to send it to like a virtual audio cable or something like that. So you can not have it playing in your ear, but you can have it playing to like a piece of software. Let's say like, I don't know, WSJTX or the DMR decoder. What is it called? DSD plus or something like that. Basically allows you to pipe the audio to a specific point. Of course, in my system here, I have the option of pulse audio. So that's what I have. I don't have any other audio devices to pipe it to. So for me, I use pulse audio. And then if I want to move it somewhere else, I can use pulse audio to create a sync for it and then actually move it around at that point. It also has the ability to change your what do they call that? The sampling rate, the 48K versus 44.1 versus 96K, what have you. So if you need to mess around with that because of odd weirdness with your audio bus, which some people have that where they can't run at 48K, they got to run at 44.1 or everything blows up. That's an option in there for your syncs, but that's where you're going to set up your audio. You can also go to network, which is kind of cool. So you can actually send it off to a network share. And the next one is the theme. The theme is exactly what you probably think it means. Yeah, you have the dark theme, you have a light theme, and a gray theme. I'm afraid to try the other theme, so I'm just going to stay on dark, just because that's what was defaulted, and I don't want to change it. The next section is Module Manager. This is basically all the modules that are loaded when you run up the software. Now, this is an opportunity if you did what I did, which is install everything, and everything's in here. I could get rid of the stuff that I don't need to load on startup. Like I can get rid of the AirSpy or AirSpy HF. I don't need that stuff. HackRF I can get rid of. Pluto, RTL, SDR. Yeah, so you can just kind of clean up what you have there. Now, if you do delete something that you need back, you can add it back, so don't worry about it. But in general, if it's working, you don't really have to mess around with that at all. So that's the Module Manager. The next section is the rig control server. Now, I'm going to take a breath and talk about this for a second.
I've got a couple of things going on here while you're talking about this, and one of them includes, I think I know why it's broken.
Sweet.
I'm working on doing a build on my other machine while you're talking, and I'm hoping to get that done here before we're done, and maybe even fixed. So we'll see.
That would be great. And we can have the notes for that.
Yep.
Yeah, so while Russ is doing that, let's go. I'm almost fully got my oxygen level back up here. I ran out of beer though. I have to get a beer. But anyway, so the rig control server. So this is kind of a neat feature. This basically runs rig control for the SDR, and you're thinking, well, what would I need that for? Well, if you want to use it with applications, let's say like, I don't know, WSJTX or what, does anybody else run any other kind of software? Yeah, or like Gpredict or something like that. You want it to automatically move the rig around for satellite Doppler shift and whatnot. Yeah, you could actually set this up. So you set it up, give it a port. Now, if you use rig control a lot, then you'll want to customize that port number. It does have the default port sitting there, the 4532. But you can definitely control that. And then it has a controlled VFO, the radio, controlled recorders, the recorder, blah, blah. Has a tuning button. And you can also have it so it automatically listens on startup. So if you start the SDR, it'll go ahead and start the server. So yeah, I've actually done this. And I have ran it against WSJTX. And inside of WSJTX, it's real simple. You basically just say, hey, connect to rig control server. You establish which IP address and which port number you've established in the configuration, and lo and behold, when you change the band inside of WSJTX, it changes the band inside of the rig and the SDR application and the mode and everything else. So if it has to switch to, if you're using like even FL Digi, I guess, and you want to switch modes, it could flip modes for you and everything else. So yeah, it works pretty slick. I think that's probably the coolest feature. If I have to compare it against all the other SDR applications that are out there. Beyond that, that's pretty much it. There is a debug tab that allows you to kind of see some of the gobbledygook. But I don't really care about that stuff. I just, I turn it on and then I just see if my radio works. Oh yeah. Got some radio working. Yeah. So, this is pretty slick. Now the things I miss having versus, let's say, cause we did talk about SDR Angel. A while ago now. It's probably a good while ago now. A lot of the decoding stuff and everything else that you're kind of used to is not in this. So you can't, it doesn't even have an RDS decoder for, digital radio, the RDS stream. So you can read the little text in the station and stuff like that from FM stations. Like inside of SDR Angel, of course, you can decode. I think you can even decode all the WSJT protocols. You can decode DMR from it. It has a bunch of decoders already built in. Now, again, this bills itself as an SDR platform without any bloat. So, maybe that's enough bloat that they're thinking. That it does have a rig control server. I mean, that's a little bit of bloat that it's carrying along with it. But yeah, it works quite well. Not any different navigating. Once you have everything kind of configured, you pretty much, unless you're changing modes a lot, you literally can just hit that little hamburger menu on the left, and then you just driving the SDR. And the zoom control is kind of neat too, especially when you're into HF. Now on the RTL SDR, I don't get a huge swath of bandwidth, but I can get like the whole band on HF in one window. So like if I'm just kind of narrowing down on the voice section, I can zoom it in. I don't have to change my bandwidth or anything else like that. So that feature is kind of really nice when you're using the adjustments on your right hand side. Again, using those min and maxes are pretty good as well for adjusting how much level of signal you're allowing to pop into the waterfall display. It does make quite a bit of difference when you're trying to find signals and stuff like that inside the application. Let's see. I guess I'm going to go back to the notes because I kind of went off note here for a few seconds. Actually, I followed all the notes perfectly. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Probably because I made the notes based upon how the UI was showing itself. So yeah, I'm just gonna go in the chat room here, see what kind of questions, if any, that we have.
Just a warning from Tom about buying knockoff RTL SDRs, but don't they all come from China? So aren't they all sort of knockoffs?
I bought mine from Amazon, so I mean, I just, I'm assuming it's okay. I mean, because that's what the RTLSDR.com people say. I think that's the actual link I used. I mean, it might have been an affiliate link at first, but it wasn't when I bought it. But no, it's I don't know. I mean, it works. I have a junky one. I have one of the older ones when they were really bad knockoffs. Like there was a ton of them, and I think I have one, but it didn't have like any other lettering on it and stuff like that. It's the real basic. It's the old DVB style. Excuse me. But it works too. Yeah, I haven't had any issues with this one. I bought this one a few years ago now, basically when the version 3 came out, and it's worked, pretty flawlessly. I've kind of tucked it around in a toolbox for going out to Jamboree and stuff like that out in West Virginia 2 times. So it survived those trips, and sitting out in West Virginia in the moisture overnight in the tent there, and then coming home here in the dryness of Montana. So yeah, it works pretty good. But yeah, I say the software is, if you can get through the installation, which seems to be the real barrier to entry, I think you'll be quite pleased. I'm going to hit stop on mine. Just kind of, it is very similar to GQRX. I mean, in general, I'm going to bring up GQRX here just so I can see it. And I know that this is a podcast, and you can't see me doing this. But yeah, because it comes up in dark mode too here. I'm just gonna hit play, and I'm gonna bring it down to where was that? 97.1. Some hip hop radio or something here in good old Montucky. Yeah, I mean, they're very similar. See, with GQRX, it's basically a very similar display. Everything is on the right-hand side. They've got some tabbed controls. But in general, everything... you do have some more filtering options here, I think. Including some extra DSP stuff. So this is some of the stuff that you don't have an SDR++. Like, you don't have a noise blanker. You don't have any kind of manageable noise blanker. You don't have any notch filters. You don't have any of that stuff, probably because it's still a little early in the software's lifespan. They haven't quite added all that stuff yet. I know that they're probably thinking about it, because they're talking about DSPs in the channel all the time. And we would love to have the author on here to talk about it some more. And he's in Belgium. So, but I noticed he was working all day today. Maybe he's living the East Coast life, or U.S. time zone life, with all his users and stuff like that. But then again, he's just trying to get that 1.0.4 build out. So he's frantically working on that. But I do see a lot of people joining that Discord channel on a daily basis, kind of probably doing the same thing we are, kind of interested in the software, checking it out, trying to understand it better. And he is dual call signs. He does have a call sign in the U.S. as well. KE8SUO. UI, sorry, KE8SUI and ON5RYZ is him. What is his name? He's on the GitHub page. Oh, I'm hiding my screen here.
You're talking about Alexandre? Or
Alexander Roma. Yes. This all makes sense now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And his handle in the channel is Riserth. I'm pretty certain that's him. Yeah, because like the icon's the same and stuff like that. His little avatar is the same. So he goes by Riserth. If you get into the Discords over there on the SDR++ channel, they have a few little helplines and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. Since we're on Discord as well, we kind of like try to join some of the other Discord communities. But I guess we're just basically looking. If you have any questions in the chat room, which I think everybody's asleep over there, because
I can talk a little bit about my problem.
Oh, sweet! Let's talk about your problem.
Okay, so
do we need a psychologist in here or something?
No, those are my issues, not my problems.
Oh, issues. Okay. Sorry, I got it confused.
Right. So it turns out, after reading a very, 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 very long thread about this hash conflict error, that, believe it or not, it was a bug in HamLib. It was fixed in 4.0-7 of HamLib. I was running 4.0-4. Which is the default in Hirsute and in Bullseye. It's in Unstable, but so I downloaded and installed the 4.07 directly from Debian and overwrote my Hirsute and my Bullseye installs with that version, and it magically works. So there you go.
Oh, bet you're a happy panda now, right?
Yep.
It's like, now I can catch up. Oh, wait, no. What were we working on?
Yeah. So I've tried to, it built on both machines, and when using the proper version or the fixed version of HamLib, whether it's the package install or the build version, they both work fine. So that was the issue. And I honestly did not figure that HamLib was going to be the cause of the problem, or that they had actually seen the problem, addressed it, and released a patch. So all good news, I guess. But just keep that in mind. If you're running a version of HamLib that's lower than 4.0-7, just realize you may run into this problem. So, the usual.
So they're going to have to download a deb for that or build it out manually.
That's correct.
Which way did you do?
Yep.
Which way did you do it?
I just downloaded the debs directly.
Oh, so there are debs available for it?
Yes, there are. If you do, go just do a Google for Debian HamLib debs and go to the packages. Just look for the ones under Bullseye that say 4.0-7 and download. There are 4 of them on my machine. Let me see what they are here exactly. They are libhamlib-dev, libhamlib-utils, libhamlib4, and python 3-hamlib. And they all have to be 4.0-7 or higher. So there you go.
So definitely build that out before you try installing a deb. I guess it really doesn't matter time-wise, right? You can either way it will work.
Right, you can do it afterwards.
You'll just run into that. You'll just run into the error or whatever it is that you ran into.
Yep. Hash collision. Fatal error.
The fatal error. So cool. So yeah. So if you have those systems, and you now know what happens when you run into that. Cool. So anything else that you can think of that we didn't mention? So the question in the chat room was from Tony. He was asking whether or not it's other sources. Yeah, I did mention it as other sources besides RTL SDR. It does AirSpy, AirSpy HF+, HackRF, Pluto SDR, both of the RTL SDR types, the TCP and just the straight device. SOAPy SDR, which exposes a bunch of other devices. So if you're not covered with all that stuff, SOAPy SDR might have you covered within that driver. Again, if you use SOAPy, it'll be a little bit muted in features, so your mileage may vary. As well, it also has Spy Server, which I believe is that the RSPs, or maybe that's, I don't know. Anyway, so you know what that is if you have one of those devices.
Right.
I don't. I have the cheapy dongle, so I don't have to worry about it. So, yeah. So hope that answers your question. That was Don. Sorry, KC9ZMY was asking that question. And then let's see. Tom asked, well, what platform for the new RTL software? What platform? I don't know what you mean by that, Tom.
It's cross-platform. It runs on everything. You can.
Yes.
It has a Windows release, several Linux releases, and apparently it will run under Brew on a Mac if you want to do that, and you can also build it for Pi. So.
Yes. And it runs great on Arch.
and with a slight tweak, it runs great on Debian and Ubuntu too.
Yeah, slight caveat. Make sure you follow that. So where did you find that? I was on their wiki, or was that?
Oh, no. It was in several threads. It started in a thread on Cube SDR, or Qt SDR, one of the two, because apparently it had the same problem because it was based in HamLib. And then after much debugging in that thread, it got pushed over to the HamLib dev team with Debian, and they were the ones who fixed it. So,
so this might actually come out in some eventual patch because it's a bug issue.
Yeah, it's already been patched
in the repo. But it's the repo. What's the repo version? The
repo version says if you go to the deb and look and see what version Bullseye has, it says 4.07. But for some reason my system had 4.04, so I don't know what the deal there was. But
interesting.
Yeah. So it has already been fixed, and if you're running your latest, dist upgrade or whatever, you should have the right version.
But you had the same problem in Hirsuit, right?
Yes, because Hirsuit has the Bullseye debs.
Oh, okay. Well, that's starting to come together now here. Okay.
Yep.
So it was suffering from the same issue.
Exactly.
And that's why I didn't see that problem in LTS, because LTS apparently didn't have that problem.
Didn't have that issue, right.
Yeah. So if you're running the LTS builds, you probably won't have any issues. You'll be able to go right. Like I said, when I installed it on Elementary OS, Odin 6, it worked fine, just perfectly. That's just everything else I wanted to install and it didn't work well. Which is why it didn't hang around. Yeah, so I think that covers everything with the software. I mean, really, the rest of it is just using it, which it works great. I mean, it does exactly what I would expect it to do, comparative to everything else. Again, the odd part is like, you if you wanted to do a little extra, you're going to use some offboard software to do it. Like if you want to decode DMR, you're going to use that DMR decoder on the side. You won't have those as modules or plug-in modules that you can actually run in your interface, much like SDR Angel has. But I think SDR Angel is kind of like the full, the full kitchen sink is in there. They got everything. That's probably why it's so hard to build. However, on Arch, it's a one-click install.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of reading. So did you go over setting up direct sampling?
Yeah, on this one, it's just a drop-down.
Oh, excellent.
So on this for direct sampling, like right now, I'm on FM. If I switch it to direct sampling Q branch, it doesn't change the frequency. But then all of a sudden I can go down here to, 7 megahertz. And let's see, we'll go down to 74? Oh, 74. And then we'll turn it on some USB. Oh, yes. Lovely FT8. So, yeah, it works. It works just like you would think. And I'm actually, let's see, I'll find a regular signal so you can see what humans sound like on here. Oh, I think I found something else besides humans. Oh, this is all broadcast stuff right now. Sorry. 40 meters.
Yeah.
I forgot. There's no humans talking at this. This is all AM. So I bet you if I go to AM, I could. there's an LSB signal. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So works like it should. That's in direct sampling with Q branch is the selected option, and yeah, works fine. Even looks pretty good. Again, I can mess around with those that waterfall, how much signal I was getting into the waterfall, so it really kind of sharpens up the picture of the signal. And I'll just put just kind of a quick screenshot into the well, I guess I can only put it into the general channel of what that looks like, because this box I can't get Discord running on it. Of course, I have the same problem on my Fedora box that Discord does not like running on it, but Telegram runs great. So yeah, so I will just quickly post that in there so you guys can enjoy that. Send. So yeah, on the bottom of that screen you can see when I flipped into 40 meters, I was basically blasting out, so it was all white on the
Waterfall,
whatever you call it. Waterfall. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So it was all white on the waterfall. So I was able to lower that down and be able to see, the blue, the actual background of the signal and stuff like that. So I could actually pick out the stuff a little bit better. But anyway, your mileage will vary, I'm sure. But yeah, you can see in that display, it's pretty slick, pretty straightforward. You can see the little things on there. It says 40 meter ham band, and then it says shortwave broadcast out to the right there. So yeah, it's pretty slick. I think for your casual SDR user, much like what I am, you probably enjoy this software. It's pretty fast. It loads up super quick. At least on my machine, it loads up really quick. And yeah, it works. So that's it. That's SDR++. Go give it a try and check it out.
All right, fantastic. Well, that is cool. And now that I've got my problem fixed, I can actually use it and contribute to this conversation in the future, I suppose. But in the meantime, this is our deep dive episode, and at the end of which we put our feedback that we've had over the last couple of weeks. And we do actually have some. So I'll go ahead and do the first one here, and then we'll let Cheryl do one, and then Bill can cover the last two, because I think that's kind of the way this is supposed to go. I did talk about this first one in the episode that came out after the last deep dive, because it was an email that was about the last deep dive, but I'll go ahead and read what he actually said here so you have all of the details. This came from Bill, WC3B, who we found out today was N3JIX, and he was part of is part of the ICQ podcast team, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah, ICQ podcast, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks for jumping in there. And
when I heard the dead air, all of a sudden I was like, oh, was it a question? Shoot.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess I didn't raise my voice quite as much at the end as I had hoped.
Yeah, Bill Barnes, yeah, ICQ podcast.
Right, excellent. So what he sent me, and this I actually received via RF on WinLink, so that was cool to actually get this information that way. He says, spam, spam, spam. Need the special phrase in the subject to get unsolicited email in WinLink. I've only ever used stroke WL2K space R stroke, but there are other priorities from the help file. And the help file is apparently in a wiki somewhere called Message Precedence and Spam Control. I don't know if it's actually in a wiki or something, but it's on the WinLink website. Precedence indicators control the order in which messages get processed and sent across slow radio network links, like the WinLink system. It also includes a mechanism to block spam, unwanted and unexpected mail. Like, you have to define what spam is. I'm pretty sure everyone knows at this point. From the system, precedence categories are flash, Z or Zeta or Zulu or whatever, immediate, Oscar, priority, Papa, and routine, Romeo. Flash and immediate messages are reserved for highly urgent messages. Unless there is some special circumstance or urgency, routing precedence R, Romeo, should always be used. R is the default if omitted. The precedence indicator is included in a WinLink message by adding one of the following to the subject line. We already talked about that. Whether originated from internet email or from a WinLink address. 7.3, Day Bill, WC3B. And we gave you all that information, but that's the full-fledged explanation straight from WinLink and from Bill of the ICQ podcast. So thanks for that information once again. And if you're using WinLink, just keep that in mind if you want to send somebody a message who has not already whitelisted you. So there you go. And we'll bring Cheryl in here to read the next one.
Alrighty then. Our next one is email from James, K5JTB. Says, thanks for thinking of me and replying. I sure didn't expect to hear you reading my email on the show. Not complaining, just expressing surprise. I've listened to this podcast since the Richard era. I appreciate the current format. The Linux topics are over my head, but I'm learning.
And that's what we hope. We hope somebody is getting something out of all of this. So thanks, James. And hopefully you're not as surprised to hear us reading this email as you were hearing us read the first one. So I thought we made it clear over the years that if you send us an email, unless you put in the email not to read it, we read it. So, I mean, we do use some discretion if there's, personal information or anything like that. We won't read that. But generally speaking, if it's of interest to the public in some way, it gets read unless you say no. So.
Well, and sometimes we drag our feet on reading them because we forget.
Well, yes, there's always that.
Yeah, there's always that. And maybe he's brought up a good point. Maybe you should start over again. Not start over, but occasionally do some more getting started with Linux. Here, let us help you out things. I know we have the videos, but...
Yes, and we are going to be doing a lot more of those, and we will be covering introductory topics again. It's nice to be able to have that as a supplement using a video format so people get the ability to learn auditorily and visually. And I think we'll reserve the YouTube channel for going back and covering early topics and then just sort of plow on with the podcast.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, all right, Bill, these last two are for you because they're about your first and second releases of your Fedora build. So.
Yes, the YouTube comments. So we got two YouTube comments here. We got one from W6BZY, and he says, I don't know it's he, but whatever. Have been running Linux in my shack since your Ubuntu videos. Last week, I too installed Fedora 34 on my main machine. You should do more videos. Well, we are. However, they might not be Fedora 34 for very much longer. But I do. I have one more in the can, and I just got to edit the tail end of that. But the new tail end is a completely different system, so that might not be very effective. So, stay on the channel and keep watching. We're gonna throw some more content out there. I'm gonna try to do some more active stuff on there as well. And I think Russ said he is too. So it's going to be double whammy on the YouTube channel. Let's see a YouTube comment here from the same guy, W6BZY. I guess he's just going to comment everywhere. Looking forward to more videos, especially compiling. You should add grid tracker to your build. No.
That video with the grid tracker install will probably come from me because I actually use it. Bill doesn't. So.
Yeah, it's only because I only use a single screen on that computer. So, I mean, I could probably do a grid tracker using it remotely on a different screen or something like that because I don't have that one dual headed. But the new box actually is dual headed. So who knows? I might be able to put grid tracker on here. I have 32 gigs of RAM, so I can almost run it without performance loss. Oh, did I say that? No, wait, never mind. So my other system too was like the mid 2011 Mac Mini i5. It's pretty slow. I mean, this fan starts spinning up pretty quick on it when I even run SDR software on it. So running that on top of decoding really plagued the system with being able to decode at a decent rate. Doing FT8 and stuff like that. So I generally don't run it, and it doesn't provide any information for me that's useful for how I use WSJTX. But that's just me. It's just a use case. I don't really have a use case for it. But Rust uses it all the time and actually starts contacts with it and stuff like that. And I understand that's what it can be used for, but I don't use it and never used it for that. So yeah, you probably won't see a grid tracker on my system unless it's just for giggles. And I guess, you gave me a name there, Kenneth Hendrickson. So it's Kenneth Hendrickson, W6BZY. So yeah, we're gonna put more videos out there. Expect some Arch videos now that the Arch system is alive and breathing, at least until the next update when it crashes and burns. Yeah. And that box is probably, this box is probably powerful enough to actually record from the box instead of I can't do that through on the little Mac Mini. It just can't run OBS and everything else, and it just dies. But yeah, expect more. We're going to do more. We're going to start doing some more content up there for you. Thank you.
Yes, very good. And thanks everybody for the feedback. We appreciate it. And that actually takes us down to the end of the show. So we want to thank everybody who is here in the chat room listening. And those of you who are listening to the show without being in the chat room, I imagine there's a few of you out there as well. We really appreciate you guys being here, asking your questions, and giving us information and feedback while we're doing the show live. We appreciate it. The folks we had tonight that we are sure of are Tony K4XSS, Don KC9ZMY, Ted WA0EIR, Tom, and for Darren VK60K. So we're still waiting for Tom to change his call sign, so we can't do that anymore. But until then, you can expect James Brown at every turn.
Absolutely.
With that, I guess we are done. So thanks, everybody, for being here. Thanks, everybody, for listening and downloading. And for those who support us financially, it's extra special thanks for that, for helping us keep the lights on. Please send us feedback if you have any, if you have questions or comments about the shows or need any additional information about using Linux in your ham shack. We try and answer all of those questions. And if not, we will try and refer you to the people who are better equipped to answer those questions than we are, because, that happens sometimes. But with that, let's go ahead and get on out of here. And we hope you have a great week or so before the next episode comes out. And we'll talk to you then. This has been episode number 431 of Linux in the Ham Shack, our deep dive into SDR++. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD 73.